Welcome everyone to Mail Fuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 7 Episode 6. It is called Phantasms. So spoilers for the episode as always. This one's about Data having nightmares and eventually acting like Michael Myers and stabbing Troy.
Yeah, that about sums up.
Okay, there's a bit more to it. There's alien parasite things that are like they're invisible to everyone, but everyone's got them attached to them, and the whole thing's actually Data's subconscious noticing they're there, and it's giving it to him through his dreams. Why it's doing that, they never really give you a proper answer for.
I think we're just meant to assume he notices more because Data, right? And he's got that new dream chip that lets him do that, so he's just interpreting it that way.
Yeah, I think that would probably be my biggest critique, is that I felt like at the end of the episode, nothing felt like it was as important as it felt like it might be early on. It ended up just being like, oh, there's an alien solution to this, okay, we're going to deal with them, and that's it over. And so it's a fun episode, I think, but it's not a big character episode like I thought it might be, especially when we got to the point where he was stabbing people and might have to apologize for that.
I think fundamentally it's quite simple, but all the surreal imagery throughout most of the episode kind of carries it and makes it pretty enjoyable anyway. Yeah,
there's some fun running jokes, even disconnected from the nightmare stuff. There's a running gag where the Enterprise is meant to be dropping off Picard at it's like a yearly gala thing that a lot of the admirals and captains go to, and we find out at the start of the episode that he's made up an excuse not to go for 6 years in a row. And he's out of excuses.
That, isn't it? Just as about the length of the show, yeah?
But he's like, I'm out of excuses, but of course they're installing like a new warp drive or something like that, and when they try to go, the ship doesn't go, so he's like, oh, this is going to look bad, because this is actually a real reason that I can't make it, but he's cried wolf too many times. So the Admiral keeps calling him and keeps giving Picard shit, and like he knows that he's up to something. He's like, no, I'll be there, I promise. And he keeps promising, and every time he promises, something new goes wrong with this new warp drive. And it all builds up to the end of the episode where they're figuring out what the problem is. The parasites were actually related to why the new drive wasn't working. They have to build a new thing, and Joy's like, oh, it'll take like 6 hours, and Picard's like, oh no, the gala will be over by then, and he's like, oh, we could try and speed it up if you want. And he's like, no, do it properly. Take your time.
Take all the time it needs. Yeah.
So yeah, Picard's mostly just in like a fun B plot. Maybe because Patrick Stewart was directing this one. Maybe that's why he was.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I just noticed that in the credits. Yeah. Obviously, he does give a few captainy orders when there's like serious things going on, but for the most part, it's this little funny subplot. Which actually does have another big scene about halfway or so in, where he's worried about getting into trouble for not showing up to this thing, so he's down in engineering, getting on Geordi's nerves by trying to be quote-unquote helpful, and he's like, oh, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that, and all he's doing is slowing everything down. And so it's just funny to see Geordi getting frustrated, like he's just this annoying presence around him.
I think that was a particularly relatable experience. I think most people have had a manager who, I'm sure they're good at managing things, but they're not good at the day-to-day job. And they come down and they like, they go, oh, I'll be helpful, I'll do this. And every employee just stands there and just be like, go away, please. Go and sit in your office and stop interfering and getting in the way. Yeah.
So there's a lot of little jokey things like that to enjoy, and there's and that's just the Picard stuff. There's actually most of the characters that are in the episode get something, either in Data's nightmares themselves or even some of his interactions with the others outside the nightmares. They do set up a minor character in this that they don't really pay off, so I'm wondering if this is someone they've set up for a future episode. But there's this other engineering lady in Geordi's crew who is got a crush on him, and Geordi's clearly uncomfortable in the sense that he's not looking forward to having to like sort of let her down, and he's kind of awkward about it. Although Geordi, because Data notices this and he starts questioning, and Geordi has no right to be complaining about someone with an inappropriate crush because he's had his fair share, if I recall correctly.
He is, had some issues with that himself. That's one way to put it.
But
also, this isn't that bad on her part. I mean,
no.
You could say it's inappropriate, yes, because different ranks, whatever. He's her boss, but he's not doing anything wrong, and she's not doing anything wrong for having a crush. It's just, frustrating for him.
Yeah, basically, she's just really enthusiastic to be around him and help him, and it's clear she has a crush. So he's just not looking forward to. And I mean, I'm sure it would probably be okay in Starfleet if they did start a relationship, but he just clearly doesn't want that, and I think that's what's awkward about it.
It probably is okay. I think it's more just a personal thing that the power dynamic is uncomfortable for him.
So, but that's the irony, I guess, is that she's making him uncomfortable the entire time when he's the one who's supposed to have the power.
Around, yeah.
So. Yeah, but they never really have a payoff because, like, Data says, "Oh, do you want me to talk to her for you?" And he's like, "No, I'll do it. Don't you worry." And the final thing I think she does in the episode is in the Picard scene where he's being annoying to Geordi. She actually sort of comes in and saves him by saying, "Hey, Captain, you could help me with this," and takes him away to a different, room or whatever. And I thought, oh, she did like a nice little thing for her. Maybe Geordi will either start to like her or at least respect her for doing that. But it never actually comes up again. She don't see her again in the episode. So I'm wondering if they've seeded this for a different story in a future episode.
I think it's possible, but for me, I think it's more just something that just didn't get around to the final cut.
You think they just cut whatever the payoff was to it?
Yeah, I do. I think it was something they had planned, and for whatever reason, it just didn't get around to it in this episode. I don't think there's going to be much of it in the future. I could be wrong, but
that's fair. I had to maybe be short on the runtime if they did this, but I almost think if you were going to cut out the ending, you could cut out the first couple of interactions with her as well, and you could have the scene where she helps with Picard because you don't need context for that. She's just a member of the engineering team comes in and saves Geordi. It's fine, works on its own.
Yeah, I think they've kept it for the runtime, and as much as it is lacking a resolution, absolutely. I don't think it's critical. Like if they're looking at something they can cut, and they're at that point looking at, we need to cut this for the runtime. I don't think it harms the overall episode from their point of view when they're learning this, going like, yeah, we can lose that. It's still these couple of scenes where Geordi's a bit uncomfortable. Maybe there's something that'll have to happen in the future. But if we don't get to it again, don't worry about it. But maybe they will.
That said, now I'm thinking about it. I do think maybe some of those earlier conversations about her making her feel uncomfortable is kind of interspersed with some of the talk of Data's first nightmares, and I'm wondering if maybe it was an awkward thing to cut out without chopping up lines that were actually necessary. Maybe that's perhaps why some of that stuff is still in there.
That could be the case, yeah.
But regardless, I mean, it's not a big deal, like you say. It's a smaller thing in the episode, but it did occur because we watched this a few days ago and then we had to delay the recording. So I was skimming through the episode before we came on, and I was like, oh yeah, there was no payoff to this. It was the sort of thing where I wasn't thinking about it in the episode because I just forgot she was there. But looking at it again, I was like, oh wait, yeah, you were here. Where was the ending to that? Where Geordi finally told you that he wasn't interested or something?
Yeah, I think it absolutely could be followed up on. If it's not, I think either way, I think they made the choice to cut the final bit for runtime, whether or not that was made while filming or just during the scripting. But whatever, it was left that, hey, we can pick this up later, or we can not. It doesn't really make it's easy to cut that ending, and if you pick it up later, great. If not, it's not the end of the world.
Well, I think if it was done in the scripting, they either.
They might have redone those earlier scenes to...
Yeah, if it was in the scripting they made that choice, they would have rewritten those earlier scenes unless they absolutely intended on picking it up in a future episode. So I would say it's much more likely it was cut after they shot everything and they were putting things together, would be my guess. But so the actual nightmares Data has, the first one is just kind of vague, obviously. He sees these three workmen, like almost like miners kind of thing. They've got the dirty gear on, the hats, and like the light in their head and stuff like that. And he doesn't really understand it, of course, anything which he sees. I think it's the second nightmare, the second dream that really makes a lot more... it gives us a lot more to chew on in terms of things to discuss. Because the first one ends with him being pulled apart by the workers, which is fine. Obviously, it's very nightmarish. And that represents the fact that these creatures that are on the ship are going to kill everyone if it doesn't get seen to. But the second dream is when he sees Worf eating this cake, which I actually thought it was cut in the shape of the Star Trek logo. I don't actually think it was. I think it was just the angle because it was a slice of cake. So I saw it from the triangular side, and it looked kind of like it was in the shape of the Star Trek logo.
Okay, maybe it was. I don't remember catching that.
It doesn't matter if it was or it wasn't. That's what it looked like to me. It was definitely a Star Trek-y color, and that was confirmed a second later, as we're about to point out.
I think if it was a Star Trek-y logo, I think that just adds to it being dream logic.
No, it was, but it was kind of like, I don't want to say accident, right? Because when they were cutting slices of the cake, that we see in a minute, they just cut regular slices. However, this slice of the cake, because we find out the cake's Troy's torso, right, and then her real head sticking out the table. This slice of the cake, because you see where it's been cut, it's cut at the armpit, and the armpit makes the bottom part of the Star Trek logo.
Okay. Then I think that was an intentional choice.
Okay.
Sure, you can say, oh, it's accidental that it looks like that because that's the body part they've cut from. I think it was an intentional choice to choose that for filming because it adds to the dream logic, right? And just being this weird nightmarish distortion. I'm
remembering my thought process of like what my mind was going through watching this scene for the first time, because I was like, that was the Star Trek logo. That's a very interesting choice. And then we see her body. I was like, oh, it's the armpit. So yeah,
I think it's both in one, in that they've chosen the armpit because they can make that association with the logo, because that's that's an in-universe thing that Data will be familiar with, so it adds to that dream nightmare logic.
Yeah, mint frosting. Never had a cake with mint frosting before.
No, me either. I probably never will.
I don't deny that it probably exists. It sounds like a reasonable enough thing, but I just
mint's a pretty good flavour.
It's
not sure it goes with cake that much, but
I mean, chocolate chip mint ice cream's quite good, and if you told me out of context, do you think mint ice cream would be good? I'd say no, that sounds awful, but then there's a good example of it working. So
I think if it was a chocolate cake with mint frosting, that would make sense to me, because mint and chocolate are a pretty classic pairing.
There you go. I'm picky with mint. I think it's because I don't really like peppermint. Anything pepperminty, I'm not super into. Spearmint, pretty good.
Is peppermint the really common one? And then
peppermint's still. I find peppermint too strong for my my taste buds.
Is that the standard? Like, if it's a green mint sort of like flavored thing, it's peppermint.
Yeah, if you're buying,
and then if it's the blue mint, it's the spearmint.
Yes, blue's the one I like. If you're buying a packet of soft mints, blue's the one I like. Green's the one I don't like.
I will agree that I prefer the spearmint then, but I pretty much like all mint. I will take those like those XX treble extra strong mint green packets that you get that they're everywhere when you're a kid. Oh, I love those.
Yeah. Well, also Riker has got a straw sticking out of his head, and Crusher is sucking his brain juice out of the straw.
Honestly, this is one of those points where it's like, I was into this episode. Like, cause it's fairly early on still, and I'm like, you're still making your mind up in that first, to a half of the episode. And it gets to this point of the dream sequence, and I'm like, I'm into it. I approve.
It was a surreal image. It was like, okay, you're trying to do your David Lynch episode. I can appreciate the effort. Obviously, it doesn't have the grace that a David Lynch actual made thing does, but it's they're doing the weird imagery.
It's hard to do that in a 40-minute Star Trek episode. I didn't obviously going back. I didn't realize it was Patrick Stewart doing this one. This is one of his earlier attempts at directing. Clearly, I think he may not have had the directing career that maybe Frakes has. Coming off the back of this show.
Sure.
But I think he clearly gets the fundamentals. He's pulling off some other stuff. Yes, he's no Lynch, but a few people are. So
yeah. So he wakes up. Cause I think it's before this dream actually, where Data's just staring at his cat, and he's like, "I think Spot was dreaming. I don't know what he dreams about though. What does he dream about? He's a cat." It's a good question. I don't know. You can tell when they're dreaming. Maybe. I don't know. He does point out though that his cat's never seen another animal, so I don't know if a cat living on a spaceship would have the same.
Is this where you make an argument for genetic memory?
Maybe you do, but must dream about something.
Yeah.
But regardless, Troy tries to give him a little bit of advice, say it's okay to have dreams, nightmares, come and speak to him, which he does, but he does it. He comes to speak to her properly, but he actually goes. It's only because there's an incident, because he goes to the holodeck first and speaks to Freud.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's going okay for a bit, and then Freud just wants to turn everything into sexual desire and mummy and daddy issues.
And Dave's like, I didn't have a mother or a father. And Freud's like, this is perfect.
I don't have sexual desire and impotence on top of it all. Oh, you're a perfect case study.
Yeah, this gave me a good chuckle.
Yeah, it was basically, he's just barking up the wrong tree the entire time. He's not getting any of it. So he goes off and he tries to go about his day, but he ends up having like a daydream or waking dream or whatever you want to call it, where he hallucinates again that Riker has the straw sticking out of his head. This is after he's been talking to Geordi. And he's holding this tool that's very knife-like. It's very sort of jagging, it's not a straight knife, but it's very knife-esque. And he's sort of holding it, and he imagines that he's got a phone inside his stomach, which he opens up and he listens, and it's Freud saying, kill them all, kill them all. And I'm like, are we doing like a Data goes crazy and tries to kill everyone episode? Because it feels like it might be going that way with that message.
It definitely played that for that first bit until it revealed that there was actually something more going on.
Yeah. But this next part, which it's not right away, because obviously he goes to speak to Troy next, and Troy is like, hey, maybe come see me before you go see Freud, because I've got some more up-to-date theories on the psychiatric profession, maybe.
I think this is where he speaks to Geordi as well, and Geordi's like, hey, people have nightmares as well as dreams. This is probably an intended side effect of that chip.
Yeah, because he slept in, and he's like, yeah, maybe you're supposed to sleep in because it's part of the human experience occasionally.
Yeah.
So...
definitely never gets you fired.
Yeah, I feel like on a military ship, what this technically is, Starfleet's not military, but it's, the approximation of it in this utopia. Punctuality is kind of a big thing.
I guess it's less disciplinary and more genuine concern, because this should not happen with Data. It's not just this shouldn't happen because he should be better than this. This shouldn't happen because it shouldn't be physically possible to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even think he needs to go to sleep. He just does it because he wants to use the stream chip.
Yeah, pretty much.
And he's got an internal clock that just wakes him up. So it's a whole thing. But anyway, after this scene is where we get what I can only say is a slasher movie scene with Troy. And this is the thing. She's walking down the corridors, and it's very clear it's been filmed like a horror movie. So to give Patrick Stewart some credit here, immediately you get the feeling, oh no, she's being watched. She's being stalked by someone. Even though we've not seen anyone, you can just tell by the way it's shot, it's giving us woman walks alone down a long pathway.
The angles sticking out from behind the corner, the slight, tilt on the camera every so often. It's got all those, the classic tricks that they don't work for a reason, but they work because they've been established by the genre in general.
It's a language. He's using the language of film to tell us. But Data, pops up behind her at the turbo lift, and she doesn't think there's anything wrong at first. And then he holds up that tool that looks like a knife, and he stabs her in the shoulder. And I'm like, holy shit! He just went straight up slasher movie villain on us. Like, this is wild. What's happening? And then Worf and Riker stumble into them, and of course there's a big thing with Picard, security standing behind Data to make sure that he's not going to try anything. And Data's been very logical about it. He understands that there has to be these precautions. He's like, I don't understand why I did this. This is strange to me, but I saw a mouth on her shoulder, and I had this urge to kill it. And it's like, okay. So they put him in his room. Data's worried about his cat, so he says, hey, Worf, can you look after the cat? And then Worf tries to tell the cat to come over here like it's a dog. Yeah, nice try, Worf.
And Data's like, hey, my cat occasionally does come when you call it. Yeah, I'd say 3 out of 5 times he'll come over when you call his name.
I mean, okay, it kind of happens, but not in the same, the way it's presented here, where, if you make a command to a dog, they'll always follow the command.
Yeah, no, it's not like that.
And especially, the cat will come for you, but if a stranger was in the house and tried to call on the cat, that cat would not come near them.
Oh, my cat's terrified of every other person except me and Paige.
Yes.
Literally terrified.
Yes, a lot of cats are like that. Not all, but a lot are. So.
Mine's still terrified of the doorbell, which goes multiple times a week because, postman.
Yes.
Yeah. Every single time that goes off, the postman or, the food delivery at night runs behind the bedroom. Every single time.
Yep, that's fair. So, yeah. Basically, Crusher's looking over Troy and the injury, and she's dealt with the wound, but there's still like a mark, and she's like, that shouldn't happen. This is more of a rash than like anything to do with your cut. And then it's a specific frequency. They start looking at her through, and they can see this parasite thing attached to her. And then it turns out everyone in the ship's got one of these things attached to them. And of course, Riker has one right in his head where the straw was. And also, of course, the shoulder in Troy was exactly where Data said it was and where he stabbed her. So,
yeah, he's seeing these parasites that are there, but clearly filtered through this kind of horrific nightmare.
Yeah. So, basically, the plan here, once they've talked about it a little bit and established, okay, these things are here, they're going to eat through us and eat through the ship, and eventually we're all going to just be a pile of goop. Okay, let's connect Data's dreams to the holodeck, and maybe we can look at his symbolism and see what he's thinking and seeing, and we can try and deduce something from it. And Data, of course, is game for all this. He's quite happy to... And I think, like, this is all fun stuff, but I will say that this is where it turns from, like, oh, I thought we were going to do something really interesting with consequences for Data stabbing one of the main characters, to, oh, they're just going to forgive it, because it wasn't, it was like a... It wasn't something they're going to really care about. So I was like, okay, there's no consequences to this episode, and I'll accept that as a bit of fun, but I thought there would be for the first half of the episode, so it definitely felt a little bit defanged, I suppose, in the last little chunk.
Yeah, I think this is where it shows it's not trying to be a super deep episode, ultimately. Like, it has all this imagery that's really going for it, and it has the potential to reach to be one of those sorts of episodes, but then this ending just shows the script. I don't know if it wasn't capable of it or if it just didn't try. It never even wanted to be that. It wanted to be this kind of horrific, kind of surreal, the slasher elements. It wanted all those things in there, and it was more interested in that imagery than it ever was with, having a really strong point at the end, and that's okay if that's kind of what it was aiming for.
Yeah, they basically just watch some more of Data's dreams. They talk to Freud inside the holodeck that's from Data's head, and just kind of deduce that there's a weakness. The weakness is kind of just a Deus Ex Machina thing where...
It doesn't matter, yeah.
Yeah, it's a high-pitched noise that Data can make, so they rig him up to do it. It kills all the parasites on the ship, and that's basically it. Like, the joke ending is that Troy comes to see Data, and he wants to apologize for stabbing her, and he's like, you can make it up to me. I brought us a cake to eat, and it's a really, really bad cake of Data. Notably much, much worse than the one in his head, and I'm pointing that out because I know you could say that in the context of the show it makes sense that the one in the head was better because it was in a dream, but they still had to make both cakes for the show, so I don't know why this one looks so shit.
Yeah, I think the context is not the capability of them making the cakes. I think it was intentionally, in Data's head, it was this horrific, perfect thing, whereas Troy, I don't think it was a replicator cake, I think she's made it herself.
Oh, okay. You think she's been baking?
Yeah, I think that's why it looks worse. She's attempted to make it.
Okay. And Data doesn't eat, so I'm not, right? Like,
I think he can eat, right?
Okay, maybe I'll have a slice of cake too.
I don't think he has to, but I think he can.
Okay, maybe I'll have a slice of cake just to appease her peace offering.
Yeah.
But
maybe she just wanted to make a cake, and some people like baking. Maybe Troy strikes me as that sort of person.
It was horrific. It was a horrific looking, like the face, the whole thing just did not look appealing at all. It's okay for a cake to just be a rectangle. It doesn't need to be like...
Yeah, I don't really care for cake, to be honest, so...
well, yeah, I mean, you're really weird then, but...
yeah, I'm aware.
Like, gimmicky cake that's people put a lot of artistry in to make it look like something specific. If it's done well, it can be very impressive to look at, but I never really find it that appealing to want to eat.
I get the purpose as a kind of art statement, right?
Yes.
Almost, but as it's a cake, right? It's going to taste the same. that's that's all that matters at the end of it.
Yeah.
But presentation, I suppose, matters to some degree.
Do you think that Worf just sitting eating cake in the dream represents that because he's security, he's supposed to be dealing with the threats, but he's oblivious to it, so he's just enjoying cake?
I would say yes, it absolutely could mean that, but I do not think they put that much thought into it.
Okay. I
think it was just, this will be funny because Worf's the deadpan guy just eating cake.
Yeah.
That's what I think the thought process was.
Yeah. They also have Crusher being the one who's feeding off of one of the others, which doesn't make any sense because she's not, a villain.
Yeah, I think, like, you can probably read into everything in Minutia if you tried. I don't think it was intended that way. I think most of it was intended to, hey, this'll be kind of amusing and weird because it's a dream. And that's okay.
Okay. I try.
I just don't think they tried that hard when they were writing it. And not even in a bad way.
Next up, then, on Next Generation, we've got an episode called Dark Page. Here's the description in IMDb. And also, that's a haircut I'm seeing in this role.
Okay.
While establishing diplomatic relations with an alien race called the Cairn, Deanna's mother experiences a mental breakdown and falls into a coma, and it seems like Deanna is the only one who's able to help her, even if her mother doesn't want it. So we've got...
So hang on, we got a Mama Troy episode.
Yes.
But where she's in a coma? So there's going to be limited Mama Troy?
Or we're going to repeat this episode and we'll be inside her head for portions of it.
Yeah, I think it's possible with them both being kind of empathic, and maybe there's you can fudge it and say there's an extra link between them. They're the same species, right?
Oh, we're getting a really young Kirsten Dunst in this episode, though, apparently.
Okay. Sure, why not? How bad can she be?
You're going to regret your words.
I am going to regret that, aren't I?
You're going to regret your words and deeds. Of course. Next review will be Deep Space Nine. We'll see you for that next week. But that has been this episode of The Next Generation. So thank you once again for joining us. Like the video, it helps out a bunch if you do. More people find us that way, and you can support all the content and help keep it all coming over at patreon.com/MailBuzzTV. But that is the show. So thank you once again for watching or listening. I always appreciate it. And oh man, do I have a funny Wesley joke for this one?
You ever?
How dare you? Some of them are gold.
Once a season, maybe.
Gold. I don't know. Some of them, like, honestly, if you wanted to bring Wesley back as an actual slasher villain who just wanted to kill everyone because he's butthurt that they abandoned him off the show, that actually would seem
probably more entertaining. Yeah,
it'd be reasonable motivation for him, I think. Yeah.